The following takes place between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. Events occur in real time.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to FPC Radio Live. It's Monday morning. It's about 9:17 in the morning, and it's John. It's Spider-Man week. Yes, I know you may not care, but I do. Yes, the brand new Spider-Man movie comes out this week, and I already have my tickets. 3:30 Thursday afternoon. So yeah, I'm getting in pretty early. I'm going to the matinee crowd. You know, really filling in with the all the old people down here in Florida. You know, but
best time to go, Ian. I used to always go. I used to go to like late morning movies. How's that? Because when I was working at the Herald, I had like a 6 to 9 show. So sometimes I just go to the 11 o'clock movie, and then after that, go grab lunch. It was like a perfect day, and then a nap at 3 o'clock, and I was all set.
No, I love it. I mean, there's certain qualities of going to certain movies in a large crowd when they come out. But look, the movie premieres on Friday, and as things have started to this has been going on for a while, but they used to have like the midnight Thursday showing was always like the first show. And then they started basically, hey, it premieres on Friday, except for the 6 shows that we run Thursday starting in the afternoon.
Right, exactly.
You know, it's funny because it's kind of like Black Friday. It's like first Black Friday was literally just that Friday, and then it became like 2 months long. It's like Black Friday on a Tuesday, 3 months after the fact. And it's like, all right, whatever. Which is fine because that's what I do now. So I hit the matinee crowd. It's nice. It's a nice afternoon, mid-afternoon, late afternoon show. It's usually not that crowded now. A movie like this, I'm assuming even this show is going to be, you know, a relatively full theater, but that's fine. I mean, it's assigned seating. They got the recliner seats and everything like that. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for that. So when I woke up today, I was like, you know, I tried, you know, jumping out of my bed like Spider-Man. I actually hurt myself. So no more of that. But I can live.
That's how Aaron Rodgers got hurt. That's how he broke his.
I am so glad. I am so glad that you brought that up, because now at least I can sit here and say I wasn't the one who brought it up, because as I told you a couple weeks ago, John, Aaron Rodgers is not. He will not miss an opportunity to remind you about his toe injury, or any injury for that fact. And it's just, look, this is part of the reason why, like, I like him as a quarterback, and we've talked about this a lot. Like, I really enjoy. I mean, I think he's a great quarterback. You and I have had this discussion every day for the last 25 years, it feels like. But you know, it feels like it, right? But we both agree that, you know, the 2 old guys are the 2 best in the league still. And yesterday was just another great example of that. That doesn't mean I don't think he's insufferable. And it's part of it's funny. And then the more this happens, the less funny it gets. And I'm just, you know, I'm like sitting here thinking, like, this is part of the reason why there is a gap. Like, remember last year after the fact, we found out that Tom Brady played the entire season last year with a torn MCL.
Yeah. No, I do remember that. I mean, I question if that was the case, but if it was, you know,
well,
good for him.
Regardless, he didn't say it once the entire season.
No, you shouldn't. You really don't want to, because then they start targeting it. Yeah, I mean,
well,
so now if I'm a defensive lineman, I want to step on Aaron Rodgers' toe to, you know, see if we can get him out of the game, which isn't going to happen. He's fine. He's just milking this as much as he can. So he doesn't have to practice.
No. That's being a little bit generous. I think, again, this is part of his way of passing the buck if things go wrong. I mean, it's just who he is. I mean, it's not. He's not immune to. He's done it before in different ways. I mean, it's just kind of him as a person. I mean, again, it's kind of right in his character. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, you know, I see every story. Like this morning, I read something. Oh, the toe is worse than ever, and I'm like, just like, good God, is that what's going to happen by the time we get to the NFC Championship game and he underperforms? All of a sudden, it's going to be like he did it on 4 toes. Remember, we heard Aaron Rodgers does it on 1 leg for like 6 years, and it's like, does what? You know? And then my response to that was always like, he was out there hopping on 1 leg. What are you talking about? And he's like, well, no, technically he had 2 legs. Okay, so he had 2 legs. Let's settle down here. We don't have to go overboard on this. No, look, I mean, he was great yesterday. Brady was great yesterday. like I said, I still don't see any reason why they aren't the two best in the league, and probably and realistically the two front runners for the MVP. Now, again, I do believe
Yeah.
that there is a relatively a sizable makes it seem bigger than probably what it is, but there is a relative to the amount of games left. Let's just put it that way. There's a sizable gap, in my opinion, between Brady and the rest of the field, so to speak. Um, and yesterday was a kind of a really nice icing on the cake for that Buccaneers team, who that game was kind of a microcosm of this entire team, and it's been like this the entire season. They look absolutely unstoppable for 30 minutes.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's on one side of the ball, sometimes it's on both, but they don't seem to always put together a complete game. Now, granted, this could be a product of success, John. We see this a
Mhm.
lot. More often than not, it's they get off to a great start and they have a slow second half. Part of that could be complacency. We've seen it with the Patriots before. I mean, you win so much, you succeed so much. Every so often, you just kind of ease up the intensity. It happens. We seem to see it a little bit more with this Bucks team, and I think it's one of their flaws. We've said it before. If this offense even has a mediocre stretch, it makes this team vulnerable because the defense, look, they're middle of the pack. This is the type of defense that the Patriots have had for much of the 2010s before, later part of that decade where they had some really good defenses. Um, they dealt with a bend don't break style of defense, and that's kind of what the Bucks are. And, hey, look, Brady can win with that. Sure, he's done it before, but it's not necessarily the way you want to live your life. Let's put it that way. Like you'd prefer that both sides of the ball complement each other. Now, look, the offense went stale yesterday. I'm not completely absolving them of blame. They had opportunities. I think back late in that first half, early in the second half, two short fields that they didn't get any points on, and
Mhm.
there were some bad play calls, some drops, some inaccurate passes. Again, offenses, even the best offenses in the league, go stale. I mean, this team is still been really from the get go the best offense in the league. So I'm not really too concerned about that. But you just don't want to see that be a pattern going forward, especially into the playoffs. And fortunately for them, they avoided disaster. Which I don't know if you were listening to the game, John, but they started to bring up the last time and the only time Brady ever lost that 21-point lead. We talked about this game yesterday or on Friday. And it was that 2011 game against the Buffalo Bills where Brady threw 4 interceptions and they lost a
Mhm.
21-point lead. So there was a little bit of that sports angst coming from that. Like, oh no, like what? Why does it have to be like that? Why does it have to be those? Because you know how sports work. There's a lot of symmetry involved. There's a lot of yin and yang, I guess you want to say. But at the end of the day, Brady was Brady. That just think about this, John. And we talked about it a little bit on Friday, but this Buffalo Bills team, despite their struggles, is really good on defense. Now, their pass defense may have been inflated a little bit based on the game against the Patriots and allowing only 3 attempts, but it wasn't inflated enough to because they came in as the number one pass defense. And Brady did things against this defense that no other team has done this entire season. And give credit where credit's due. Buffalo came into this game allowing only 8 passing touchdowns the entire season. Um, Brady threw 2, and he ran for 1. That's a pretty good day against a really good defense. And
He's a
and some
dual threat quarterback,
yeah,
isn't he? Didn't he have 19 yards
hey,
rushing
he
yesterday
looked
as
like it
well?
yesterday. He looked like it yesterday.
Why
Yeah.
not? Scramble for some first downs. He's still the best at the quarterback sneak. And Buffalo hasn't really faced a lot of elite quarterbacks, so they finally faced one yesterday, and Brady was able to get the job done. I look at the end of in regulation when Buffalo really had a chance to win the game in regulation, right? And there's a little less than a minute left in the fourth quarter, and Dawson Knox is barreling down, gets down to the 14, and at that point, I'm like, you got to win the game here. Game tying field goal looks really nice because you're going to go in overtime and lose, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brady's 13-1 now in overtime games in his career, including the playoffs. Like, I don't even know how to comprehend that.
Well,
13-1. He's lost one overtime game. That's incredible. I mean, and it was to Denver back in 2009. I mean, so if you're Buffalo, I'm not saying you go for it on fourth down. You got to kind of kick the field goal and see what happens in overtime. But you got to be more buttoned up in that situation to get the thing in the end zone, because you got Tampa on its heels and you've got all the momentum, and you got to get it done there. You can't go to overtime against Tom Brady. That's ridiculous. You're not going to win.
Well, and that's the thing, because it's like, we heard for years about coin tosses deciding overtime games. No, the reason why Brady is so successful is because of Tom Brady. I mean, it's right into his wheelhouse. It's the high pressure, win or go home situation. And who thrives better in that than Tom Brady? Like we saw it in Atlanta. We saw it even yesterday, or against Atlanta in the Super Bowl. When that game went to overtime. We've seen it in other games, but last night in particular, again, that offense wasn't particularly sharp in the second half. They hit a little bit of a rut. They had some trouble moving the ball. There was plenty of blame to go around, but when it came down to it, it was like, were you did anyone think that he wasn't going to all of a sudden just turn it on, and he was sharp? And even that last play, people will sit there and say, oh, he was wide open. Well, no, that was a product of his ability to move and basically read and be patient in the pocket. Like a lesser quarterback panics, runs, or throws it way too soon, and that's just
absolutely.
It's either just a completion or incomplete, or worse yet, it's a turnover. So, again, it's an incredible thing that Brady's doing right now at 44 years old. I think he's in
at 34, at 24,
at 34,
at
24.
Age.
Really,
no,
at
seriously,
any age,
it's really ridiculous. But back to that, when people are always going to criticize him because he's the greatest football player ever. So there's people out there that are going to push back. It happens. But the idea of an offense and a quarterback is to find the open receiver, right? I mean, so if you've got someone who is separated from the defensive back or the linebacker, get him the ball. And as Brady said after the game, it's like, he's really fast. Brashad Perriman is like, run, run, run. It was like, Forrest Gump, and he gets his head on the goalpost and you win the game. Like, I've never understood that, oh, look at how open this guy is. Well, that's the quarterback does that, right? Like you said, he moves to his left. He turns, he moves his eyes, he goes to the left, to the middle, to the. I mean, we saw the both of them, both Rodgers and Brady. We saw it last night. We saw it yesterday afternoon. That's what they do. And then we saw a young guy like Justin Fields, who I think is going to be really good, but he's still a baby. He could be, Brady's son. Lock in on a receiver, and it leads to a pick six. So, those are things you got to learn as a quarterback. But yeah, when people say, "Well, look, the wide receiver's wide open," well, that's kind of the idea. I mean, in basketball, if you need a game-winning shot, if you can get to the basket and hit a layup, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and look, I mean, this is the great and awful thing about football, because it creates so many different ways to analyze it, but it's unique. So, like, look, every thrown completion to a wide open receiver isn't a product of great quarterback play. But it's so hard to distinguish because, again, you're never going to get a number for that. You're never going to get a simple graph or chart, which people love. I mean, if you can present something in chart or graph form, you can convince them of anything. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
exactly,
it's just like, oh, this looks pretty cool because look at all these colors and dots and everything like that. It's really Elaine staring at the moving tires, maddening. But so, like, there's certain like, when I watch Brady play the sport of football and the position of quarterback, you can watch and you go through the replays, you can see him manipulating safeties, you can see him moving things around, you can see him, subtle movements that create separation for the wide receivers. Now, I've criticized, and I believe rightfully so, that part of Patrick Mahomes' struggles is he's not, although he is getting better, he's not at he's certainly not at the level of elite quarterback play when it comes to reading defenses. So I think he relies, and this isn't a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, I think he relies more on the scheming things to get open as opposed to what he does now. Again, he can create things with his legs and everything like that. We know how it is, but that's not a way you want to live. Like, I hate to make it sound so simple, John, and this is what drives me nuts. Is like people are so enamored with running as a quarterback, and we saw Josh Allen do it yesterday, and it was all cool and everything like that. He made some really great plays, but to me, it's as simple as this: a quarterback, you throw the ball. Running back runs the ball. Why are you taking or making a quarterback into a lesser valuable position by making him a runner? You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Well, the only thing is Buffalo doesn't have any running backs, so that's done by.
Well, that whose problem is that? That's Buffalo.
Oh, that's Buffalo. Yeah, it's not Josh Allen's fault. He's like he almost. I mean, I would have just kept running him anyway in the fourth quarter, although he hurts his foot. But I think that's really the only chance they had.
That's part of the issue, though. But that's what I'm saying. So to me, if that's the only chance you have, it's like the Cam Newton thing. If the only chance you have to win a game with Cam Newton is for him to run, then you have a problem because he's not a running back. He's a quote unquote quarterback. So why are you devaluing the most important position in the sport of football? Now, again, people will sit there and say, "Oh, look at all the stuff they got." Like, again, I think there's obviously highlight plays that get magnified bigger than the misses, and I think there are a lot more misses with running quarterbacks than there are hits. People just are far too enamored with the hits. They see the highlights, they see the, oh my God, look at him run. Well, guess what? More often than not, a quarterback's not being accounted for when it comes to running. So there's going to be more opportunity, and the more athletic quarterbacks we see, we're going to see some runs. Does it mean it's great quarterback play? No, it's great running back play. If you want to do that, line up behind another quarterback and go run the ball. So, to me, I think,
so you're not a fan of the Nebraska Cornhuskers in the 90s with Tommy Frazier?
No, I'm not.
They did win 2 national championships doing that, but they also had a massive offensive line and a bevy of running backs. So, I mean, I like that the quarterback can have that option or that in his toolbox, in a moment of desperation, because they don't. The first time a running back actually ran the ball yesterday for Buffalo was in the third quarter on a fake punt. And plus, why are you faking a punt? At that point, just go for it on fourth down with your best player, right?
Look,
You've got
Sean McDermott.
I've never understood that. Let me take the ball out of my best player's hand and let's go with a running back and a fake punt formation. Really?
Well, and look, I mean, you point to coaching. I mean, that's all about coaching right there.
Sure.
I mean, the fact that they didn't hand the ball off, that's their problem. That's the thing. It's I don't if you go into the huddle as a quarterback and you have the mentality that there's a good chance you're going to run on this or there's an opportunity to run, then I think you're taking away from your potential as a passer, which is what your job is, and that's the advantage that you give your team. So, as great as some quarterbacks are running, I mean, which one has sustained success? And I don't think either you or I believe that Aaron Rodgers is a running quarterback.
No. He's got that option, but he's a pocket passer. So you can move him outside the pocket, which is different than running. I like that. I mean, I love those boots that they run a lot,
which is fine.
Which is fine. Which is great. He's not a running quarterback. He's not going to all of a sudden, do what Josh Allen did yesterday and run for 101 yards. No, he's not a running quarterback. He's a pocket passer who can move within the pocket but can also move outside the pocket.
Exactly.
And throw on the run. Yeah.
So again, at the end of the day, it's which quarterbacks that are runners, the big thing, I mean, everyone loves the running quarterback every single year. It's all about that athleticism. Which one of those quarterbacks in the history of the NFL has really had any sort of sustained success? You know what I'm saying?
Mahomes has so far. I mean, we can.
Well, I mean,
you gotta at some point. He's in his 4th year. He's gone to 3 straight AFC Championship games. He's won a Super Bowl. That's success. I mean,
sure, but it's not. But again, it's not like. I mean, Aaron Rodgers.
He also
did the same, you know what I mean.
He also is better. I mean, I think he's trying to learn to stay in the pocket more.
No, I do. I believe that, and that's what I've said. I said he will be better if he does that. Because again, this kind of goes into my just thought process when it comes to quarterback play. If you have it in your mind that you can, gain something by okay, you can obviously make a positive out of a running play, but just the mentality of having that in your tool, I feel like that takes away from your potential as a passer, because you're never going to fully appreciate
Right.
being that pocket passer. Whereas, look at Brady. I mean, he was in a way kind of forced to to stay in the pocket, because certainly when he was younger, he wasn't as I'm not going to say athletic, but running athletic. He that
He's
just
the only he's the only guy who's a better athlete at 44 than when he was
it's absurd.
24.
It's absurd. It's
No,
absurd.
seriously, it's like I think he's faster now than he was at the combine, which isn't saying much. But yeah, no, I get your whole point. Sometimes if there are some physical limitations that you can't run, then you're not going to do it. It's like the guy who's not necessarily the best looking guy when he goes to pick up a girl at a bar. He's got to be charming. He's got to be funny.
Oh, yeah.
He can't just show up and say, "Hey, I'm George Clooney. Let's go out." He's kind of work his way around
Really
that. I wish Aaron Rodgers,
my friend.
well,
you know how much work I got to do.
Oh, come on! You look like Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
You'd be all right. And Uncle Skip Bayless is pounding the desk as we speak about the Cowboys and Tom Brady. But I wish Rodgers ran one more time in the NFC Championship game. I mean, he had that opportunity when they were down 8 to scamper in for a touchdown.
If I were a Packers fan, I wish he would have thrown better earlier in the game, and that's kind of my. Like,
oh no, I know, but at that point that happened. You can't cry over spilled milk.
No, sure,
sure,
better,
yeah.
But that's kind
so
of
at that moment, I would have preferred him to. And he's not perfect. Even Brady's not perfect, believe it or not. He's pretty close. But yeah, so at that moment, I wish he could have run in. But I mean, I think I like the escapability a little bit more than maybe say you do. I'm not saying we're going to run, what the Patriots ran last year with Cam Newton, where he was, what did he have, like 13 rushing touchdowns? I don't even lost track, but he had like 8 touchdown passes. That's not the way the world works. That's not the way you're going to beat teams.
Yeah, and exactly. And to me, it's not sustainable. It's not. It's tough. So anyway, speaking of,
well, how long if a guy like that is going to play?
Well, that's the point too. Look,
32. He looks. I mean, as good as Josh Allen is, and I enjoy watching him play. I think he's an exciting player. He's as big and strong as any quarterback we've ever seen. The guy could, play tight end if they chose to do so. But how long is that going to last? Now, oh my Lord! And he's kind of like Roethlisberger was when he's young. He's not afraid of taking a beating.
Yeah, he does, and that's. I mean, look, that's. It
almost seems like he likes it, which is not like be Peyton Manning and just fall.
Yeah,
like,
he's got to learn that for himself. Like he's got to stop, doing these. Oh, I'm going to lower the shoulder. Like take what you can get. Like exactly. Yeah. Like that, and that's part of it, though. I mean, look at Lamar Jackson too. I mean, this is a guy again. I think there's the evaluation of Lamar Jackson is so out of this world. Like it's either one direction or the other, and it's just crazy. It's like if this were a chart, there would just be dots all over the place trying to kind of keep everything in the same level, because like
he's the most polarizing player in the NFL, wouldn't you say, in terms of his playing style, not personality. I mean, I think we all like Lamar. He seems like a really great kid.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of, like, there's some people that just, oh, my God, this is the greatest thing we've ever seen. And then there's others that say this is never going to work.
Well, the problem is when he came into the league, people were dumb enough to go completely to one side and say he was a running back without actually ever seeing him in the NFL. So what does that do? Well, that breeds, the complete opposite opinion. So then you had people that were saying, oh, no, he's the most talented, incredible quarterback we've ever seen. Now, all of a sudden, it's kind of like the Patrick Mahomes thing. It's like all of a sudden now it's like once you go to both extremes, it just becomes so muddied and mixed in between.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's okay. He's okay. He's a fairly accurate passer who has a great advantage of running with his legs and so on and so forth. By the way, speaking of the Ravens, John, what another awful 2-point conversion decision. What is John Harbaugh thinking? Like again,
that made no sense. This is
exactly what I was railing on like a week ago, where it's like sometimes you just get so stupid and too cute because you're just enamored with analytics. Well, guess what? Spreadsheets don't win football games. I mean, I know you sound like a football guy, an old guy. It's like, oh, well, no, there's a lot to taking in each situation and not just blindly trusting analytics. Well, does analytics play football? No. It doesn't. Like I don't know. So I love that because it was idiotic. Like why go for the 2 points there? Why? Because
I didn't understand that at all. Yeah, I didn't understand that at all. And like who the hell is going to win that division? I still think there's hope for Cleveland, other than the fact that they play the Packers on Christmas Day and Baltimore plays the Packers next week. So I'm certainly going to root against Baltimore and Cleveland next 2 weeks. Who the hell's winning that division? And there's only going to be one team to make the postseason. Maybe if your younger brother Joe Burrow makes one more pass yesterday, they win that game. That was a game I wish I got to see. I mean, I was kind of tied up into the Bucs-Bills game because I can't quite multitask like you and watch 6 games at once. But I mean, that looked like a fun game, right? The 49ers and Bengals, because it's kind of like Cincinnati's an intriguing team, young, kind of energetic. It's good to see that team be good again with that quarterback we both like a lot. So, but yeah, someone's going to win that division. I don't think a second team is going to make the postseason.
I don't think any team is really a threat at all. I think it's pretty clear right now that the Patriots and the Chiefs are the best 2 teams in the conference. Both have really great defenses. I'm still. We'll talk about the Chiefs in a minute. I'm still. Actually, we'll talk about the Chiefs right now because let's see if any one of those AFC North teams. I don't care who they face, whether it's a wild card team or another divisional opponent. I just don't think that any of them is going to beat any of the other competition in the AFC, even a team like the Titans, because I'm starting to think that maybe Derrick Henry is going to be back for their playoff game. So if they happen to play the Titans, you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't give any of them a chance. And who knows if Lamar Jackson is out long term. But the Chiefs, I would imagine they would love to play the the Las Vegas Raiders.
They might as well be.
They might as well be. I mean, who cares? Put them in Oakland, put them in Seattle, put them in
back
Vancouver,
in LA.
and out on the moon. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But the Chiefs, the only 2 times, I mean, outside, let's be honest here. And I know people are going to kind of gloss over this fact and everything like that. But the only 2 times in the better half of the last 2 months that the Chiefs offense has looked, good, came against the Raiders. Outside of that, they haven't scored over 22 points in 6 weeks. That's not great. For your offense. Now, again, the Chiefs defense is really good. And I think we're seeing that. I think we're seeing the impact that Melvin Ingram has had on that team. And, that's a great thing for the Chiefs because I think, you can still win some football games with really good defense. But I am still, I don't want to say concerned, but I am still non-trusting of the Chiefs offense. Like, I really don't think that they can hold their own against a high-scoring team if it comes to that. You know what I mean? I feel like there'd just be too many mistakes, and too many, lulls in play and everything like that. So, are you sharing the same kind of concern?
We talked about that. Yeah, we talked about that on Friday, and that the Raiders, they do what they do on defense. Gus Bradley's the defensive coordinator, so he's going to play single high safety, which is just not the way to go at Patrick Mahomes. So you got to change. You got to morph into ways to try to combat the opposition, and the Raiders don't do that. So good luck to them. They're going to get, what they deserve. So, yeah, I mean, I think their offense is still struggling. If I'm Kansas City, I still would rather see them run the football a little bit more. I think their offensive line, which, was assembled this year, is playing better, and I think they would appreciate to run the ball a little bit more as well. But their defense is good. I mean, right now, I'm booking Patriots, Kansas City, AFC Championship game. I mean, the next rung of teams, if Derrick Henry comes back, you got to take Tennessee seriously.
That's the one wild card to me.
That's Tennessee. The one wild card. And the Chargers just aren't ready yet, although Herbert was just ridiculous yesterday. I mean, he's Thursday night's going to be a fun matchup with Kansas City and the Chargers, because I'll make a case that that's the 3rd and 4th best quarterback in football going at each other Thursday night in the same division. He's just special, but that's
the thing.
They still have some issues.
As much as the Chargers may have, they can very easily win that game, and that's the big concern, because what happens, like, I think to the Chiefs coaching staff's credit, to Andy Reid's credit, Eric Bieniemy, I think they've scaled back, or they've lessened some of the load that Patrick Mahomes carries, because I think they realize too, like, as much as he doesn't obviously plan, no one plans to put the ball in danger. It's just instinct, and it's what he's going to do. So if you scale that back, like, I mean, we saw that there was a deep pass. I can't remember specifically who it went to down the field at one, but it was probably Tyreek Hill. But it's like, man, that's they really haven't been pushing the ball downfield that much this
Mhm.
season.
Yep.
Again, because it becomes a very dangerous proposition to huck the ball up. And look, I mean, good for Patrick Mahomes if he's willing to do that, they're going to be more successful because of it. Because again, he's not the guy who can really go out there right now and huck it around without turning the ball over. And he didn't, he did a good job yesterday. Like I said, I'm not putting too much stock in the Raiders. They did what they were supposed to do, and that's impressive in and of itself. But when like I said, when you look back at the last 6 to 8 weeks and you see the only two times this offense look like an elite offense in this league came against the Raiders, and that's a little concerning because that makes me believe, well, maybe they just have the Raiders number and
Mhm.
these issues are still ever present, and they are. So, but that doesn't mean that they and the Patriots aren't the two best teams in this conference, and I think it's pretty safe to assume that. And Buffalo now all of a sudden is not necessarily in a fight with the Patriots. They're fighting with the Dolphins right now because they're only a
Right.
game above them. So,
Yep.
boy, what a wild weekend! I love it. I love
Oh,
football.
14 out of the 32 teams in the league have either 6 or 7 wins.
Yep.
I mean, talk about the middle class. Like half the teams in the league are a game above or a game below 500, so they're all in contention. Yeah, you just look at the AFC. I believe 8 of the teams of the 14 are in the AFC, so it's
Mhm.
just a massive blanket over all of these teams. Yeah, so I mean, if I was to guess now, Patriots, Kansas City, and Tennessee win the divisions. Someone wins the North. And I'm still going to put probably Buffalo, Indianapolis, and the Chargers as the 3 wild card teams because Buffalo does have a fairly easy schedule outside of coming back here to Foxborough in 2 weeks. So I would think if they win 3 out of 4, that gets them to 10 wins. That should get them in. So if I'm guessing right now, but yeah, unless something weird happens like injuries, I would think Kansas City and the Patriots will meet in the AFC Championship game because they're also 2 of the healthiest teams in the league right now.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
oh
that's
for sure.
that's a very very important factor. So I would assume that we're going to see those 2 teams late in January, whether it be in Kansas City or Gillette, to fight it out. And the Patriots right now own the tiebreaker because of the conference record.
Mhm.
So look, if the Patriots win out, they're the number 1 seed, get a bye, 2 home games, and get to play the Packers in Super Bowl 56, which would be interesting.
Oh yeah, I know. You're every day you're going to bed just praying for it. Just to
Oh Lord, yeah.
every god and deity you can think of. Just please, for
Oh
the love
man.
of God, get Aaron Rodgers to a second Super Bowl.
Yeah, against Bill Belichick. How awesome would that be? That would be great.
Oh, I think it
Because
would.
Belichick's beaten all the top quarterbacks in the history of the sport, right?
Oh sure.
I mean, he has. I mean, he beat Peyton Manning, in a AFC Championship game. He beat Joe Montana 3 times as the defensive coordinator of the Giants. He beat John Elway as the defensive
Hmm.
coordinator of the Giants. So why not the next guy? So that would be an interesting chess match. Rodgers against Belichick. That would be fun to watch.
Yeah, well, that's if Aaron Rodgers survives his terrible toe injury that is clearly got him
It's
on death's door. So
it really impacted him last night. He only
that's what
he only had like
that's what I'm
8.
saying.
He had
Like,
8 incompletions. He would have had only 4 if he was healthy.
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, dude, like, you don't need to milk this. Like, that's the thing. He doesn't need to do that. But this is what we're gonna get at the end of the year, whatever the case may be. It's gonna be about the toe. Whether it's if they win, it's like it's the most epic overcoming of an injury ever because he stubbed his toe, and it's like Jesus. I can't do it. I just can't do it, John. Sometimes I just
He's
like
awesome though,
he
isn't he?
is.
Oh, but
He,
seriously though, for what we do, the guy is awesome. I mean,
well,
like,
of course,
was it Al
but like,
Michaels last night saying you can't stop talking about him? He's just like
well,
he's
he was talking to Chris Collinsworth, who literally could not stop talking about him. I mean, it was.
Chris Collinsworth
I,
likes Rodgers more than I do. I didn't think that was
Chris,
possible, but I think that
well,
could be the case.
you know how I know Chris Collinsworth is a little batty because he was just marveling over the fact that Aaron Rodgers went through his progressions. He was like, "Did you
Yes,
see his
right,
eyes
yeah,
going from right to left?" I'm
yeah,
like, "Yeah,
like
that's called going through your progressions."
like he's never done that before.
Like Aaron
Right?
Rodgers
Yeah, like,
invented looking at different receiver. Like no,
right.
of course I believe Aaron Rodgers is great. And of course again, I give all the respect, but that's the point. You don't need to sit there and milk that injury because to me, that's part of his, we're kind of kidding and joking around about it, but that's kind of part of his the knock on him. You know, a lot of the issues that he has are mental. And I'm not, again, this isn't a me speaking about his life mental health. I'm talking about his football
No, I know what
mental
you mean.
acuity.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, we talk about it with you know, his comments about the Bill Belichick stuff. And I almost fell out of my chair when I heard Shannon Sharp actually knock Aaron Rodgers for this. I was like,
he's
my
been
God.
knocking him. He's been knocking him more since COVID. He's been knocking him.
Yeah.
He
Well,
has. So I give Shannon credit for that, and I do too. But I just find the guy. I find the guy just like he's like a train wreck. So it's interesting.
Well, which makes great content for us. But when it comes down to, well, why isn't he the greatest? Oh, you know, this, that, and the other. Well, because of stuff like this, because of a bit of a mentality of, you know, I need to make it about me. And it doesn't, you know, it doesn't mean he's out there being, you know, again, when people say that, you get this idea that he's out there like campaigning. In a way, look, in a way, he does campaign for himself, but it's not as insufferable as some say. But the point is like when it comes to a game, like, you know, if Belichick, you know, he was his coach and he says we're going to run the ball 46 times and we're not going to throw it. Well, like Shannon, and I can't believe I'm giving him credit. Like Shannon said, it's like, well, why? Why do you need to throw the ball? There's no situation that allowed for it. You know what I mean? Like this was part of the game plan. And like I said the other day, and I talked about last week, throwing the ball in that situation only created more opportunity for bad plays. So
the only thing I'll push back on, I will guarantee you that if he had Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback or Tom Brady as his quarterback, he wouldn't throw 3 passes in a game.
Oh, sure. But,
you know, that goes without saying.
But I think this is I think this is more about just the philosophy more than this particular situation in a vacuum, because there are going to be situations, and we've seen situations where Brady has had to take a step back. You know what I mean? There's obviously
that last game against Miami in 2015, which cost them.
That's exactly what popped into my head
home
too.
Field advantage,
Yep.
right? I mean, so they win in Miami that day, they'd probably go to another Super Bowl if we can believe that they left one on the table, right? I mean, because they win that game, they're the 1 seed, and that AFC Championship game's played in Foxborough instead of Denver with Peyton Manning barely able to throw him. I mean, just the Patriots would have won that game somehow. And gone to another Super Bowl and probably beaten Carolina. I mean, and that was the Steven Jackson game. So I'm sure.
Brady, I was there. I was there. I was sitting right behind the end zone watching him painfully crawl and get that touchdown. That I don't know. I don't know if Belichick had a bet or something, or he had him in his fantasy league, but he did.
That's what he had.
He just needed him in that end zone. It was so frustrating. But
here's the thing you mentioned about Belichick. Belichick. He's so smart and he's such a great coach. Sometimes he's almost, I'm not saying he's bored with the game, but he's got to do it in a certain fashion, you know. And this was something that was criticism of Mike Martz when he lost to Belichick in that Super Bowl. Like Mike Martz, in his mind, was like, we're going to win, but I'm going to do it in style.
Yeah.
And like, so I don't need to give the ball. I don't need to give the ball to Marshall Faulk, who at that point we could make a case was the best player in football. Or
I mean, the guy was
there with all the running.
Yeah.
The guy was ridiculous. I mean, the guy was essentially a wide receiver and a running back. So I was like, we don't need to give him the ball, and we'll do it my way and be stylish. And next thing you know, they lose. So the coaches have egos too, and I hope they do, especially if you're successful as Bill Belichick. But it would have been interesting to see that type of thing happen. But I mean, I'm ready for Patriots KC. Just let's fast forward and do a best.
No. See, I like
of 3. No, I like. How's this theory? Right? Because I hope this is what happens. Patriots KC in the AFC, Tampa, Green Bay in the NFC. Just make it 2 out of 3. The hell with all the other prelims. 2 out of 3.
Yeah, unfortunately, it'd be a 2-game sweep for both the Patriots and the Buccaneers.
Ooh,
so
that hurts.
Come on, you're gonna give Bill Belichick 2 opportunities, or possibly 3, to play the same body. I love Andy Reid, but I'm sorry, Bill Belichick's still a better coach than Andy Reid. And again,
he is, but Reid doesn't back down, and Reid had success against him. I mean, he put up a lot of points against him. So.
And here's the thing, though. And this is a good hypothetical. Maybe we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. I mean, who do you trust more, the Patriots offense or the Chiefs offense against, the Chiefs, against the Patriots defense and against the Chiefs defense? I'm taking the
That's a
Patriots
tough one
offense.
I would still go with Kansas City because of the quarterback. I still think he's exceptional. But I think sometimes because he's exceptional, they get away from certain things they do well that could help them win the game.
Has he ever played a really good game for an
No,
entire 60 minutes against the Patriots? No, and like I said,
more halves. He's played like ridiculous halves, but not the full 60 minutes.
Which again tells me like I like Bill Belichick going up against Patrick Mahomes. I think he's, again, I mean, this speaks to Mahomes' limitations, but like I'm looking at it and I'm saying, well, yeah, maybe they have the better quarterback, sure, but Patriots can run the ball. They can also throw the ball too.
Right.
I mean, again, this idea that Mac Jones is, I see Nick Wright get up there every day screaming about not having elite arm talent, whatever the hell that means. Again, like how do you make that? What is elite arm talent in your eyes? Well, elite arm talent is basically quarterbacks throwing awkwardly. I mean, that to people is elite arm talent when it's not. That's elite arm talent to me is accuracy and consistency.
Well, that's where we both agree. I mean, that Brady's completion along the left sideline where he threw to a spot, Mike Evans caught it.
Oh, that was
pass
beautiful.
from Mike Evans. Those things were just exquisite. Rodgers' touchdown pass to Devontae Adams at the end of the second quarter. I mean, that was just silly. I mean, that
that's
to me
arm
is
talent. Like I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's elite arm talent. You know what it is? It's like pornography. When you see it, you know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I would know that, but you could just say, okay, that's a throw like not many dudes can make, right? You just look at it and go, there's like maybe you can count on one hand guys that can make that throw. So I think that's what it is. But yeah, because you can throw left-handed on the run and you're right-handed, that to me is silly. That's not that.
Well, that's how I think people view elite arm talent. It's not necessarily about the end result, which to me is the most important thing, because I don't care if you're throwing incompletions. I don't care if about almost and that could have been or should have been or would have been. Right. No, it's about what you do and how you do it and what the end result is. Yep. And at the end of the day, it's like, I think Mac has elite arm talent. He's accurate. He makes good decisions.
He's very accurate.
He's going to get better because he's younger. I mean, it doesn't mean this is his final form. Like people think, like when I say he has elite arm talent, it doesn't mean that he's a top 5 quarterback. It just means that you can see the foundation of his arm talent. There's talent there. This idea that he doesn't have it, I don't know. Again, this is just the nature of how evaluation is done now. It's silly. It's absurd. It's like half the people that speak loudly on this stuff don't know what they're talking about. And maybe people at home are laughing and saying, well, hey, why don't you look in the mirror? Well, maybe that's the case. Maybe I'll be proven wrong at some point. It hasn't happened yet, but it's just, I don't know. The values that people put on quarterback traits are so just out of this world off right now that it makes it impossible for us to evaluate quarterbacks when, to me, it's very simple. To me and you, I feel like we just look at it and say the answers are obvious, and people just make it more complicated and more muddied when they bring in all these different theories and objective or subjective opinions.
Very true. Very true. We're in agreement on that one for sure.
Perfect.
Yeah, you see it, and we can say that guy's top level. You know, like I said, we saw the two best yesterday, and we're going to see two damn good quarterbacks on Thursday. I think they're the next rung, Mahomes and Herbert. And tonight we'll see maybe the next rung below them, right? In Kyler Murray and Matt Stafford. I think they're like the next level below those guys. If we're starting to rank these guys in tiers, but some pretty good games coming up tonight, Thursday, and next week.
Yeah, it should be fun. So, but at this point, we're going to end on a high note and just say, see you later, everyone. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a great Monday. Enjoy Monday Night Football.